4:30 a.m. The first Ukrainian Liutyi drone screams into the pitch-black sky, followed by another every 30 seconds, until nearly 100 of these long-range shadows are airborne. It is the largest coordinated swarm in the history of this conflict. But here is the unbelievable twist. Ukraine actually wants Russia to intercept 80% of them. Moscow is placing all its hopes on the final shipment of components before Iran potentially collapses. They were wrong. By the time the Russian S-400 crews finish celebrating their easy victories over the decoys, the real ghost opener is already miles away from their most sensitive sensors. This is the story of how a weather report, a few lines of clever AI code, and a deep understanding of physics allowed Kyiv to delete a $1 billion supply chain in under 10 minutes. Moscow just watched their entire air strategy for the next month be structurally compromised. And the best part? They never saw it coming. Right as those first shadows crossed the harbor line at Port Olia, the Russian defense network wakes up with a mechanical snarl. We are talking about a layered anthill defense. Panzer S1 and S2 batteries working in tandem with Torm 2 units, all managed by a Merman BN electronic warfare system that is currently screaming digital static into the atmosphere. To any pilot, this is a no-fly zone. To the Russian commander in the bunker, it is a fortress. He sees the swarm on his glass. 30, 40, 50 blips, and he actually smiles. Just another swarm of cheap plastic, he mutters. He is ready to swat them like flies. But Ukraine isn't just sending drones, they are sending a logic bomb. Mixed in with the 25 heavy-hitting Liutyi drones are dozens of Gerbera decoys. Basically, they are hollow shells that look like $1 million on a radar screen, but cost less than a high-end lawnmower. The Russian crews think they are having a career day. Target lock, 7 miles. Engage! The command is followed by the sharp, bone-shaking whoosh of 57 E-6 interceptor missiles tearing out of their canisters. These $150,000 missiles streak into the Caspian night, seeking out what they think are high-value Ukrainian strike assets. One by one, the Gerbera decoys, cheap fiberglass kites with radar reflectors, evaporate into fireballs. In the bunker, it is all high fives and cheers. They are clearing the board with 80% efficiency. But then, the math of the saturation trap kicks in. A Panzer carries 12 missiles. Once those are gone, the crew must switch to their twin 30mm autocannons while waiting for a reload vehicle. Suddenly, the air is filled with the deafening, chainsaw-like roar of 2 A-38M cannons spitting 40 rounds per second. The sky is a lattice of glowing tracers, a wall of lead intended to shred anything in the air. It is an impressive show of force, but it is also a desperate attempt to cover a widening gap. While the Russian sensors are fixated on the bright decoys in the upper atmosphere, the real threat is operating in the clutter. 3 Liutyi drones, carrying 165 pounds of high-grade explosive, are screaming across the water at a mere 20 feet. They use AI-assisted terrain following to hide behind the crests of the waves and the bulk of docked tankers. To the Russian radar, they are indistinguishable from sea spray and harbor noise. One Liutyi exploits a 3-degree blind spot created by the Merman BN's own mass of electronic interference. It clips a crane arm and slams directly into the cargo hold of the Viking 01, a Russian-flagged freighter. The ship was packed to the gills with Iranian-made guidance kits and precision engines, the brains of the Shahed fleet. With Iran paralyzed by nationwide protests, these were not just parts. They were the last of the strategic reserve. The Russian commander watches as a secondary blast structurally compromises the entire pier. Millions of dollars of irreplaceable technology sink into the freezing mud of the Caspian. The cheers in the bunker die instantly. He realizes the easy wins were just a distraction for the heist of the century. Panicked, he grabs the secure uplink. He is no longer thinking about defense. He is thinking about survival. Consolidate everything. Move the remaining stockpile to Primorsko immediately. We move under the S-400 umbrella. The Russian High Command doesn't wait for a damage report. They pivot. Convoys of heavy trucks are now screaming down the highway toward Primorsko-Akhtarsk, the crown jewel of Russia's drone operations. This is a fortress equipped with dozens of stationary launch pads and deep earth bunkers designed to store hundreds of Shaheds. The air around the base becomes a literal wall of electromagnetic energy. The Russians activate a massive EW complex, a combination of the Merman BN and the newer Pol-21 systems. It is designed to blind every GPS satellite and fry the brains of any incoming drone. Above them, the S-400 Big Bird radar starts sweeping the horizon, searching for anything larger than a seagull. Back at the Ukrainian control center, the atmosphere is suffocatingly tense. On the master tactical display, 3 Liutyi drones suddenly flicker and vanish into a sea of white noise. Contact lost. Signal's gone white, an operator barks. For a few heart-stopping minutes, it looks like an utter catastrophe. Ukraine has exposed its best technology and lost several million-dollar units, while the Russian fortress seems impenetrable. But as the Ukrainian commander stares at the satellite feed, he sees something the Russians didn't intend to reveal. The sheer volume of trucks. They aren't just storing the parts, they are parking them in the open because the bunkers are already overflowing. He realizes this is no longer just a tactical engagement. This is a one-time only window to clear the entire Russian air strategy off the map. The Russian move just changed the map, he says. Launch the ghost opener immediately. The mission has evolved into a high-stakes saturation flood. From the west, a flight of Ukrainian F-16s pops up from wave-top height. They launch a volley of MALD decoys. To the Russian S-400 radar, it looks like a massive air armada is charging their front door. The S-400 batteries bite the bait hard, launching $2 million missiles into the clouds to chase ghosts. But the real ghost opener is already beneath them. 6 Storm Shadow missiles, launched from Ukrainian Su-24s, are screaming toward the airfield at Mach 0.8. They are not using GPS. They are reading the terrain with DSMAC sensors, making them invisible to jamming. A perimeter battery of Russian Panzer S-1s finally catches a flicker on their thermal tracks. 8 interceptor missiles tear out of their canisters, lighting up the dawn sky with brilliant white streaks. The first Storm Shadow is vaporized. A second is clipped by 30mm autocannon fire and cartwheels into the marsh. The Russian crews briefly celebrate, but they have just hit a wall of cold, hard physics. A Panzer carries 12 missiles. They have just burned most of them. While the mechanical loaders struggle through a grueling reload cycle, the remaining 4 Storm Shadows execute a terminal pop-up. They pitch vertically to 1,000 feet, their infrared seekers locking onto the heat signature of the S-400's primary radar. The lead Storm Shadow slams directly into the 92 N6E Gravestone radar. The initial charge drills through the multi-million-dollar sensor array, followed by a demolition charge that turns the electronics into molten slurry. The Russian defense network goes pitch black. The S-400 launchers are now just very expensive, very blind tubes of fuel. And that is when the saturation flood arrives. 90 Liutyi drones roar in from the sea in a staggered formation to minimize radar reflection. At the same time, the back door triggers. Smuggled Liutyi units launch vertically from nondescript cargo trucks parked just 9 miles inside Russian territory. They bypass the outer defense rings entirely. The Russian panzer crews are in a state of pure panic, switching to manual optical tracking. They neutralize drones left and right. But for every drone that disintegrates, 3 more adjust their paths using decentralized AI. One Liutyi performs a final desperate dive. It aims for a row of 10 fuel tankers, parked next to 300 ready to launch Shaheds. The contact is a masterpiece of destruction. A massive thermal event erupts, turning thousands of gallons of high-octane fuel into a localized sun. The shockwave travels through the line of drones, triggering their warheads in a sympathetic detonation. In under 10 minutes, Ukraine executed a tactical hard reset on Moscow's entire air strategy. As the dawn sun rises over the Azov Sea, satellite images reveal a landscape of total structural failure. Primorsko-Akhtarsk has been 80% neutralized. We are talking about the permanent loss of over 300 Shahed units and a multi-billion-dollar radar network. This was a brutal, calculated, surgical removal of a strategic asset. For the price of a few dozen composite drones, Kyiv deleted Russia's ability to conduct saturation strikes for the next month. The lesson is simple. In the warfare of 2026, Muscle doesn't matter if your eyes can be surgically removed by a swarm of $15,000 drones. Russia put all its strategic eggs in one basket, and Ukraine used the laws of physics to drop that basket off a cliff. Will the Kremlin double down on an unstable alliance, or be forced to pull back their spring offensive? Drop a comment below and let us know if this is the beginning of the end for the Shahed era. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay ahead of the tech that is rewriting the map.